What is up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Daily Betslip time. I'm your host for today, Reed Wallach. Alongside me is the great Peter Dewey. We got a whole mess of stuff to talk about, both on the court and off the court. We got MLB regular season, NBA playoffs, maybe some French Open look. We're also going to talk about, obviously, the report that came out about my beloved Brooklyn Nets and a potential situation with Kyrie Irving. Game of the night, Boston Celtics, Miami Heat, Game 5. What else would it be? If you want to join in the community, me and Peter, we're betting whatever you guys are saying. So you like the Heat plus 2.5, Celtics minus 2.5, over, under, whatever you want. Make sure to check out the poll below or on Twitter. We will be betting what you guys are betting or picking. So make sure to do that. But we'll all get to that. Peter, what's going on, man? Happy Wednesday.
Dude, happy Wednesday. I'm feeling good. We got some multiple courts, tennis courts and basketball courts today. So we're getting after that. And I just saw little come across from Woj that Robert Williams trending towards playing tonight. So good news for the Celtics. I know we'll get into that later, but some 7 different guys questionable in that game. So going to be kind of wild when the injury report officially hits in the next 30 minutes or so, hour or so. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's more so than any other series I think I've ever seen. There's so many injuries in the games. We should start keeping track of how many players hit the ground on each play, because it's whether it's a hard screen, it's a rebound, it's like tackle football out there in this series. But Robert Williams missed game 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm losing track of all the guys, but missed game 3, played in game 4, played very well in game 4. I thought it was like a huge difference in the Celtics win earlier this week. So I think Robert Williams, if he is able to play, he actually makes more of an impact than maybe someone like a Marcus Smart type. Not that he's not important, but something like that. But we will get into that all in the game of the night when we break down Heat Celtics. But let's start, of course, with some pain from last night. A bad beat, I think, in 2 directions. I'm not sure which one hurts more, but Phillies Braves last night. I'll set the stage. With the Braves around a minus 180 favorite, total of 8.5. Braves led 4-3 through 8. So you're sitting with the Braves, you're sitting with the under. You're like, okay, let's just get through this. Let's get out of here. 2-run Bryce Harper homer puts the Phillies up 5-4 in the top of the 9th. So now your under's dead. Your Braves bet's dead. Now, though, if you're a Phillies ticket, you're thinking, all right, let's go. Like, we got this. The Braves respond with 2 runs in the 9th, went on a walk-off single. Braves win 6-5, so game obviously goes over the favorite Braves. They hang on. And I feel like I say this about every sport. I think if I were to rank bad beats, college basketball is probably the worst with all the fouls at the end.
Yeah.
But a bad beat in baseball, they sting. Like, they really linger in baseball. Like, I'll leave it to you. What do you think? Basketball, baseball, football's a little different because you can kind of like see it coming almost. You know?
Football, I feel like you see it coming. College basketball is tough because you're right. Like the fouls at the end of the game, especially on totals, you'll be like, oh, like I feel pretty safe with this under. And then there's like 15 fouls in the last minute 30. And you're like, okay, there's nothing you could do at that point. But baseball, I will say this. I think the reason it stings so most, like you talk about Bryce Harper hits a home run. Like the home run can change the game so quickly. Mm-hmm. So like you may be feeling real good, like games like 5-3 or whatever in the 9th, and you're like, oh, one guy gets on with 2 outs, like it's whatever. Then they give up a home run. It's like, oh man, like just you go from like this is in the bag to it's over. And I mean, this is the second time we've had a Braves bad beat where they've blown a lead. This time it didn't end up, coming back to bite them to win the game, but they blew a game against the Brewers last week, I believe it was, scored in both extra innings and still ended up losing in the bottom of the 11th. So like, that's just killer. And their bullpen has been really bad this year so far. So not ideal to be in a scenario like that. Baseball, I think you're right. It stings the most. I think basketball, college basketball is just like it happens all the time. Like you're just like, yo, that sounds all right.
College basketball is agonizing because like you could like see the fouls happening and the free throws and everything. Baseball, I think it's because of like the slow pace of the game, and like you're sitting there and you're like a 4-pitch, like especially when these relievers get in, it's like 4-pitch walk, like a ground ball and error. Like you almost like it's like a painful death. You're just saying that like, oh my God. But I mean, what do we think is the worst beat of the sequence of events that I just described? I feel like it's probably got to be the Phillies as an underdog bet, right? You're thinking
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you get the two runs in the ninth, and you're home free. You got to think you're feeling good, right?
Yeah, it's got to be the Phillies because I was originally gonna say the under, but then like because the Braves ended up scoring again, you're like that bet was long, like it went way
If
over.
I
So it's
want
like
that to lose,
whatever.
I'm happy the Braves also won. Like I want them to
Yeah,
like get a bunch of runs. Like don't even make it like it was a sweat. If you land on 9, then you're like, oh god, like one less run. So yeah,
yeah,
I think I'm with you. I think the Phillies it hurts.
yeah. The Phillies, that's rough. And the thing I always notice because when we talk about real to finish up on bad beats, like we talk about college basketball, the fouls, like the fouling in college basketball starts so early, and like I've been watching it in the NBA playoffs this year because like you'd think obviously playoff games teams are more inclined to try and extend these games, but like you'll see a team down like 8. I mean, I forgot who it was. I think it was Boston in game 1 was down like 10 with like a minute to go and Udoka put all his guys at the end of the bench at the scorers table. Jaylen Brown hits a 3 and he's like, "Oh, actually you guys come
Yeah,
back." But then they let them run 24 seconds off and take a shot. And it's like in college basketball, that would have been 3 immediate
oh
foul.
yeah.
Like it's so crazy the difference between
It's
the two levels.
because the level's so different. It's almost like there's a different way for you to lose on like an over on an under in the NBA because all the guys are so talented. They just make a bunch of threes. It's
Mhm.
like it's almost like
Yeah.
the opposite is fouls because like all the pros they want to get off the court. They don't care. They're just gonna run down and chuck threes and they all go in. So it's almost like it's like a hyper speed version of losing a total in
Yeah.
the NBA versus college. But yeah, baseball they're brutal. That's why I try to like limit my baseball bets over the summer. I can't have that stress. We'll talk about stress in a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Plus you're committed to watching like a 3-hour game
yeah,
and then it's
you
like,
want to get
"Oh
paid
my
off.
god." Yeah, it's too much.
So we got a Twitter response we're going to put up on the board. One of our friends of the program, Cody, he shared his best bet of the day. But the game unfortunately already started with Mets Giants. He had Lindor to go over a home run. He hit one last night. That's plus 475. He is 18 for 36 against Jacob Junis with 5 home runs. And we're going to do a live look at Reed because he stopped watching as the Mets were getting crushed. They do have a run now. And it was by not a Francisco Lindor home run, but
Here's
the
a
Mets are
hit.
getting crushed. They're down 9-1 after 4. I turned it off after the second
Ooh.
inning when they went down 9-0. But Cody, we are pulling for you over half home run. Lindor starting to swing a big bat, hit a homer last night, like I said. So plus 475. I don't hate it. Peter, I know we do a daily dinger article on BetSided. I know you are currently tied for the lead. What is your daily dinger for the day? This won't
Yeah,
count bets.
I took one a deep one. I took Tyler Naquin,
Okay.
the Reds outfielder, to hit one off of Kyle Hendricks, who's allowed 10 home runs, third most in the league this year. Naquin, like real quick, has just been on fire as of late. Last 14 days, he's slugging 721. He's hit 3 homers over that stretch. Last 7 days, he's hit 2 homers, slugging 667. He's got 5 bombs on the year. The Reds are just really bad. So like when you go through their roster, I'm like, I was debating Joey Votto, but he's hitting like 144. So I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know if I want to take my chances there. So at least Naquin's been swinging a hot bat. But I love Cody's thinking on this one because the first thing I do when I'm picking my daily dinger is I go through the matchups of that day and I try and find like a power hitter who has really good stats against a pitcher. And like Lindor against Junis, I mean those are crazy numbers. 536 at bats. That is
Yeah.
absolutely
And
nuts.
wind always blowing crazy at the Giants stadium. So you never know if you like kind of catch one. Again, he hit a bomb last night in a crazy game that I unfortunately stayed up for, and the Mets ended up losing. So that wasn't very fun. But I took I believe I'm currently in last, or I'm tied for last. I'm not doing so hot.
You
I
got to go
don't.
back to calling your shot again,
Yeah,
bro.
I don't. It's just like a feeling in the morning when I look at the board, I'm like, this one's gonna hit. I'd say I feel pretty good. It's not as big of a long shot, but Ronald Acuna Jr. He's
Okay.
hitting really well. Braves, like we were just talking about, obviously crazy comeback, but they're facing a lefty, and Acuna hits lefties really well. His slugging percentage is 160 points or so higher against lefties. He's facing Ranger Suarez. Acuna's hit him really well since he's come back from the injury. Only 2 home runs, though. I feel like maybe this is one where he breaks through. It's only plus 320, so it's not super crazy, but Acuna's power is there. Maybe he gets one over the fence. So that is my Daily Dinger, which if you want to see more, you want to see Ben's, Donovan's, Ian's, make sure you're going to BetSided.com, checking that stuff out. But we're going to move on.
Ben's flaming me in the
Ben
chat.
is checking in.
99% of the time, that's a New York Yankee for me. Yes, that is straight facts because the Yankees have played the Orioles about 80 times this year, and all the Orioles do is go up home runs to the Yankees. So
the Yankees also play in a Little League ballpark, so it's very easy for a guy like Aaron Judge to hit a home run.
That helps too. I will take the other side of the Yankee ones too because, if you hit the ball to right field, you got a very good chance of hitting a home run.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think I could punch one over the fence, honestly. But we are going to move to best bets. Peter, I'm going to lead us off because I'm now like 3-1-1 after I got a crazy prayer push on my Angels Rangers over. And it's funny. I was talking to Ben how much I hate betting. I like betting unders more than overs, but for baseball, for some reason, I do continue to bet overs. Maybe it's because I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of like the under bad beat, so I'd rather just go for the over and root for, I guess, like chaos. It's like the opposite almost. But so my first best bet is gonna be the White Sox team total over 4 runs, a little bit of juice. There's some 4.5s at less odds. I like both. I think that the White Sox are actually in a great spot to go off. They're going up against Rich Hill, 42-year-old. He's actually pitched pretty well, but kind of seems like that was like a early season jolt. Only pitched 2 innings his last time out, and this matchup is ugly for him. The White Sox third in OPS against lefties. The Red Sox bullpen isn't super great anyway, right around the middle of the pack in bullpen ERA. So if Hill can't go very far, I actually like the White Sox to like continue to be a threat to score. They just lost, by double digits. They lost like 16-3, 18-3 last night. So I think you're going to see a big bounce back effort from the White Sox. I think you're going to see maybe, high scoring matchup after they got, boat raced by the Red Sox last night. So it's a big price with Lucas Giolito on the mound. They're around -170. I'd rather just go for the team total over. That's what I'm keying in on as my best bet. Again, 3-1-1 as I do my daily Betslip baseball bets. What do we think?
I like that one a lot. I feel like Rich Hill is classic as Rich Hill is. He's just at some point like he's going to start falling apart. Like he's 42 years old and he's never been like this lights out starter. White Sox kill lefties, like you said, like they destroy them. And Boston's been really, really hot lately. They played a great series against the Astros, now playing well in this series. I feel like they're kind of due to just like have like kind of a clunker game. And when you have like those high scoring games, I feel like the next game always feels 100%. Like a down game.
So, but I also, while the Red Sox are due for a loss, I don't want to like lay -170, -160 with Giolito. Like I'm not trying to like fade the Red Sox. It's more, I just like this one particular matchup. So I'm going to go with the White Sox offense. Even if they lose, I think it's going to be a higher scoring game.
I like that too. And you get it at 4. So like there's some push, like you have the push safety there where if they end up only scoring 4 runs. So I like that a lot.
Yeah. What do you got for your first best bet?
Yeah.
You're staying baseball, right?
Yeah, I'm staying baseball. Ben's not going to like this one because I'm taking the Yankees tonight. -155 against the Orioles. And this is a very, very cheap price you're going to get on the Yankees because they are banged up and they're pitching JP Sears. He's making his first major league start today against Tyler Wells. But Tyler Wells not been very good this year for the O's. He's got a 4.35 or 4.41 ERA and a 4.35 FIP. Facing one of the best offenses in the league. The Yankees hit the most home runs in baseball, as we were alluding to earlier. They're top 5 in OPS, top 5 in runs scored. They're averaging almost 5 runs a game. I think it's 4.79 this season. And New York is also really good. The bullpen, they're 5th in baseball in bullpen ERA. So I know they went extra innings yesterday, but at the same time, like if Sears can't give them a ton of length, I trust this Yankees bullpen. They've been good all season. I trust them more than I trust Baltimore's bullpen. And you're rarely going to see the Yankees -155 against the Orioles. So like I'm willing to lay that. The run lines in baseball, I will almost exclusively stay away from them just because there's just so much volatility there. And a lot of the times you're laying juice anyway on the run line. So I'm just going to take the Yankees to win. I think they close out this series. They need to bounce back because they lost 3 or 4 in a row before winning last night. So they need this game for sure.
Yeah. 2 questions. I guess they kind of go hand in hand, but Chapman, concerned because this is like my way of chatting Yankees with you. So
Yeah.
the Chapman, is this an issue? Do you think this is more of a swoon? To me, Chapman always gives me a little anxiety up on the mound. Not that I'm a Yankees fan. I do watch, obviously I'm in the area, so I watch a lot of Yankees baseball, but I never feel super confident in Chapman on the mound. There's not many closers that inspire a lot of confidence. They're always very sweaty and nervous, no pun intended on Chapman, but what are your thoughts on him? Do you think this is more of a phase, or do you think that he's actually in some trouble here and you have to look? It's Clay Holmes, right? That's who people are
Yeah,
kind of pitching to get in the closer role.
Yeah, so I think the biggest loss for the Yankees is losing Chad Green to Tommy John for the year because he's kind of their high leverage guy. He's been just the
Always
most
has been.
consistent guy. And Jonathan Loaisiga has not looked that good this year. Chapman's going to go on he just went on the IL with an Achilles injury. I know his fastball velo has been down this year, but I feel like this happens every year. Like people are like, and especially Yankee fans are like, Aroldis Chapman sucks. He can't be the closer, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't have the stats right in front of me, so I'm going to pull it up real quick. Like, Aroldis Chapman, year in and year out, is one of
while
the
you
best.
pull it up, I'll give you a sec to pull it up.
Mhm.
I completely agree with you, by the way. I'm not the biggest Chapman guy, but again, I live in New York. I have plenty of Yankee fan friends. I watch a lot of Yankee games. I know what's going on with the team, for better or worse. But it does feel like Chapman, there's always a point during the year, usually in this like May, June area, where he looks terrible. And
Yeah.
it looks like he's lost his control, his fastball velocity's down, all that stuff. And then he ends up still like being the absolute nails in September when the Yankees need him.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Everybody overreacts this. And, like, maybe I'm one of the people who underreacts. And, like, growing up a Yankees fan, like, when you grow up in the Mariano Rivera era, you're just used to it was never a sweat in the ninth inning. Like, you got to the ninth inning, it was like, game's over. And, like, with my family, like my dad especially, like, they like don't have this concept of anything outside of Mariano basically because he was there for 20 years. So you have this like this thought process of like every time you get to the end of the game, it should just be over. And no other team in baseball has ever experienced that. So they're all just like, what are you talking about? But like Aroldis Chapman as a Yankee, since he came back from the Cubs, he has a 2.588 ER or 2.88 ERA in 258 games pitched, striking out 14.2 guys per 9 innings. I mean, like, yeah, he's gotten off to a slow start this year, but at the same time, like every single year, I feel like we have this conversation, and you make the great point. Like, there's a stretch in the second half of the season where he's like unhittable.
Yep.
And so, like, he's one of the probably 5 to 7 best closers in baseball, like, no question. So, yeah, it's a little frustrating when at the beginning of the year he doesn't look himself. But at the same time, I'd rather have him on my team than relying on somebody else who we see blow saves every other night. Like, he's still really good. So, I'm not going to hit the panic button. Maybe the Achilles injury actually is a thing. Like, I believe it was a couple years ago, he had like a shoulder problem, and then he came back and his velo was up. And I was like, oh no, he was actually hurt. That's why he wasn't pitching well. So maybe that's the case here too.
Yeah. And I'm going to stick with you because you have another baseball pick, and then I'm going basketball and tennis. So I'll stick with you for your baseball prop, and then I'll do my two, and then I'll close with you.
All right. That sounds good to me. So I got my next one is Drew Rasmussen of the Tampa Bay Rays, under 4.5 strikeouts, plus 105. So after laying the juice with the Yankees, getting a little plus money here in the Rays game. And this one is an interesting one because they're facing the Marlins, who strike out a ton. They have one of the worst strikeout percentages in baseball. But Rasmussen this year, as well as he has pitched, like he has great peripheral numbers, like he's been great. But he doesn't strike a ton of guys out. He only has 34 strikeouts in 38 innings, and he's only gotten into the 6th inning 2 times this year. So my thing is I just don't know against a Marlins team that is decent on offense. They're moving towards the top half of the league in OPS, that he's going to get through, more than 5 innings. And he's not even striking out a batter per inning. So that leads me to the under. He's only gone over this number 3 times in 8 starts. He's had a couple starts with like 1 strikeout, 1 with 3. So I just think the fact that you can get the under at plus money, I like it. The way I looked at this prop when I was kind of breaking down who I wanted to take as a pitcher today is I was like, there's no way in hell I would lay the juice with the over. So to me, I was like, then I'm definitely taking the under at plus money. So that's kind of how I'm looking at this one.
Yeah, I love it. That total sitting at around 7. I know last night there was a 6.5 total. That game stayed under. So maybe a bit of a pitcher's duel shaping up, but I think that's what's generating this plus money look on Drew Rasmussen under 4.5. But yeah, so let's transition. We'll go Clay first, then we'll swing back around, do some NBA. Then I'll complain for a while. Then we'll go back to the NBA or back to the actual game being played. But I'm going to go French Open. I'm going to do some tennis. I do dabble in the tennis. It is probably my most degenerate sport that I like actually have like a passion for betting. I just think the swings are crazy. It's a wild sport to bet on. A lot of volatility there. But I'm going to go Joao Sousa plus 180 against Lorenzo Sonego. And I think this price is being generated on Sousa's lack of form in the French Open. He's never gotten past the second round. This is the second round. But he's just in better form right now. I don't think that this is a huge mismatch like this line is indicating. Sousa is coming off of a clay court final in Geneva, the tournament right before this. So maybe fitness is a concern. I'm not as concerned. I think this is actually going to help him. He lost in the finals to a very talented Casper Ruud. Did go 5 sets in his first round matchup. So again, maybe that's what's driving this price. But I'm just going to take the more informed player that's been on the clay court swing against a guy like Sonego, who did win in straights against an outmatched opponent in the first round, but just hasn't been on the clay circuit. He just had inactivity, hasn't been as involved, just lost his last time out 2 weeks ago in Rome to Denis Shapovalov, who kind of struggles on clay. I just think that this is kind of a crazy price. Plus 180, I think maybe closer to like plus 120 makes a little bit of sense, like small underdog, if that. I just think given the form, you got to go with Sousa here at plus 180. I mean, this is just a huge price.
I am personally, not a tennis guy. My tennis knowledge starts at Rafael Nadal and stops at Roger Federer, but I like it, dude. That's a huge underdog if he's playing that well. So I like it a lot.
So coming off a final, so I like him. I'm going to try and ride the hot hand. Maybe just, more court time is going to pay a difference. So plus 180, I think, is a pretty good look. Now, let's get back to the NBA. Peter, I've been on this prop, the past like 3 or 4 games already. It's been plus money. It was minus 135 in game 3. It went over. It's now minus 140. I'm still going to bet it because I think it's a rebound too short, but it's Jaylen Brown over 6.5 rebounds in the Celtics Heat game tonight. Obviously the lone game on the card. Again, just why is this line 6.5? Even if you want to say the big men were out in like game 1, or the physical defenders were out, Horford and Smart, Jaylen Brown, sure, he's followed up in these games. Robert Williams plays in this game, still gets the rebounds. Brown in this series now has, pulling up my notes, but he now has rebound games of 10, 8, 9, 7. In the last game, because the Heat missed everything so bad, he had 17 rebound chances, and he only had 7 rebounds. So, again, is he going to have 17 rebound chances? No, probably not. But is he going to be able to grab some rebounds enough to get over this number? Yeah, I think so. You get some regression in both directions, more actual rebounds, less chances, sure. I just don't think that this number is adjusted enough. Give me Jaylen Brown over 6.5 rebounds. Just keep cashing those tickets.
I love this one, dude. Total at 203.5, 2 defensive teams. Like, I feel like we're just setting up for a ton of bricks tonight. So like that sets up like beautifully for him. Like and especially with the Miami, I don't have the exact stat, but Miami settled for so many jumpers in game 4. It was like they only ended up taking like 14 free throws because they just kept taking mid-range jump shots. Like if they do that again, the Celtics are fine with that, clearly, because they shoot the ball from 3 better than Miami right now. So there's like, go ahead, take a bunch of mid-range. We'll just crash the glass. I like that a ton. And they, like Jaylen Brown, talk about like not having the bigs, like outside of Bam, when the starters are in for Miami, like Jaylen Brown's like the second biggest guy on the floor outside of Rob Williams. Like it's because PJ Tucker's a smaller guy. Like the size, I don't think even matters at all. Like him and Jason Tatum, if they want to crash the glass, they're going to be able to, because Miami doesn't have like a big body to throw around. And Bam, as it is undersized to play the center. He's a great player, great defender, great rebounder, but like it's not like he's 7'2", like a menacing presence down there. So
yeah, I
love that prop. Speaking of Jaylen Brown, I know
you're going right there.
So we'll stay right there. I'm taking the under on Jaylen Brown's points. It's at 24.5. And I know he had 40 in game 3, but that game also came with Jason Tatum having one of his worst games of the playoffs, of the season, really. and missing time with a shoulder stinger. But you look at Jaylen Brown in this postseason, he's played 15 playoff games and he's only scored 25 or more points 4 times. He's hit 24 exactly twice. So the fact that this is at 24.5, I love getting that on the under, because that was they were at the beginning of the postseason. WinBet and a lot of other sports books had it at like 23.5, and he was like, towing with that line a bunch of times. When you get to 24, that's when it really shifts to like, okay, he's hitting the under, 3 out of 4 times on this prop. Last game took like 20 shots, still finished with 12 points. Again, the total's 203.5. So if you think this game is going to be anywhere, if it has a chance to go under, I wouldn't bet the under. I think if anything, I would probably bet the over just because it is so low. But like, if you think it's going to end up around there, there's only so many points that are going to be scored. Like Jaylen Brown probably is going to get 20 regardless. But I just don't think 25 is just a little much for me, especially with how well Tatum played in game 4. Like, I thought the value on Brown would have been if Tatum really didn't shoot the ball well. He shot 8 for 16 in game 4. So like, clearly he's fine. I think they go to him plenty. So give me the under on this Jaylen Brown prop. He simply hasn't hit it. I don't know why, like 1 40-point game, they're just like, oh, we're putting it back at 24.5. Like he just hasn't done it the entire postseason.
Yeah, and we could get into, I guess, in the game of the night part, maybe like how this game is going to play out. But it seems like Tatum, even if his shoulder is bothering him, because like he was playing with it a lot and stuff, he's still going to get his shots up. So yeah. I think that they're going to go down with Tatum really driving the boat a little bit. And yeah, so I do think one way or another, even if Tatum doesn't necessarily play that well, Jaylen Brown might be a little neglected, whether that's right or wrong. We get into that a little bit. But that's our best bets. If we want to cue up the recap graphic, our little handy-dandy graphic. I will bring up this Robert Williams prop because I actually was going to think about this one. It did just miss the cut. I want to see more about that availability, but we will get into him in game of the night. So keep an eye on that Robert Williams prop bet. But for myself, White Sox team total over as my lone baseball bet, and Jaylen Brown over 6.5 rebounds, as well as Joao Souza plus 180 in the French tomorrow. And as you can see on Peter's side, but also Peter's got the Yankees minus 155 against the Orioles, Drew Rasmussen under 4.5 Ks, and Jaylen Brown under 24.5 points. Those are our best bets for tonight.
Love to see it. I think we got a lot of winners in here. I'm excited, especially once we get into game in the night. But first, my friend,
let's talk about it.
I need to hear. First off, I need a vibe check from you because I know this would be tough. But I'm gonna do a little. I think we might have to do a little reads here because this is just Kyrie Irving, man. I mean, Christian Winfield of the Daily News comes out with a story, and you talk about having like a nice little lead in here. He says, last summer I got a tip I didn't want to believe. A source familiar to the inner workings of the Nets roster told me James Harden would leave Brooklyn, followed by Kyrie Irving, then ultimately Kevin Durant. A purported course of events that would undoubtedly send the Nets back to the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings after just 3 seasons in the spotlight. My goodness. I mean, what a way to start a story. But apparently the Nets are unwilling at the moment to give Kyrie Irving a long-term extension. So, Reed, the floor is yours. How do you feel about it? What's the vibes right now? What do you think needs to happen?
Okay. So, I guess we'll start at the beginning. We'll start the kind of big picture. Not even big picture, but I do think it's May. The team failed. Team came up short. A lot of time to sit at home, sit in Cancun, sit in whatever you're doing in your off season and really think about like your imagination go a little crazy and, start to play the blame game and all that. So I do think that a part of this is the first round exit coupled with some interesting comments from Sean Marks and like his 2 media availabilities since, whether it's the postseason press conference and then the Yes Network interview he did. So I'm not super concerned right now. Overall, I think that it's May and there's a lot of talk. I don't think anything's being decided right now. So overall, I'm okay. But like, how I go with this team. I got the jersey up behind me. This obviously is not easy for me and very stressful. It's been a long day of bickering back and forth with people, close friends and random people on Twitter with 20 followers. But I do ultimately think cooler heads prevail and Kyrie Irving is re-signed, I think that this is maybe more of a stance of the Nets, rightfully so, to be honest, are kind of blaming Kyrie for this whole thing, kind of, I wouldn't say unraveling because it's not over just yet, but kind of going sideways. And whether it's trying to get him to sign like a 1+1 deal or a prove it deal, like opt in and then we'll take care of you. Like, why would Kyrie Irving do that? Like, and now we'll get into kind of the other side of it. So, like, Sean Marks is like, I hold him very dear to my heart. He built this team, he built it all up. Like, he has my trust. He has done pretty much up until this point everything that is deemed necessary to build a championship contender. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But, Sean, with all due respect, if you mess this up, if you screw this up with Durant and Kyrie, like, I will kick you to the curb because I don't care how much pride you have. I don't care about Joe Tsai's bank account. The guy's like one of the richest owners in sports. He's a upteenth billionaire. I don't care that you lost money. Okay? Because like season tickets got like tripled in prices. You guys were a 7 seed last year. Like, I don't care. I don't feel bad. Like, I don't really care. Like, you're supposed to put a championship contender on the floor. Go do that. You know, like, don't let Kyrie Irving just walk, because the flip side of this is, okay, if you want to play hardball, that's fine. But like, it gets to a point where there's no means to improving. It's like, if you let Kyrie walk, the only teams that can sign him have cap space, sure. So like, teams are going to want him. Like, we say that now, like, oh, no one's going to want to deal with Kyrie's, crap and stuff. People do, it's like they still will. He's still a generational player. That's why I do think ultimately, whether it's stuck with Kyrie or not, I don't see it as stuck. I still think that you build a championship contender around Kyrie Irving. You got to bring him back because the avenues to improve the roster aren't there. There is no means to improve. It's not like, all right, we could do a blockbuster deal with this all-star and like Kyrie Irving could go and we'll do that. No, he's a free agent. Like, he still holds the cards as much as the Nets think they do. So do they need to maybe find an interesting like contract? Yeah. Like, I do think Kyrie does need to give a little bit back, but at the same time, like, you can't expect the guy to sign like a 1-year deal or something. And then you're not even going to talk about, wow, as Lindor hits a home run, we'll get into that. But
wow.
First of all, Kyrie Irving, like, he brought Kevin Durant here. And by all accounts, Kevin Durant wants to play with Kyrie Irving. We'll see how that plays out. But again, Sean Marks, I love this team very much. This is a team that I hold dearest to my heart. Like, do not, like, over everything else, put your pride to the side that this, like, first of all, you signed up for this. This is what you get when you sign up and sign these superstars. They control your team. Sorry, get over it. Kevin Durant, keep him happy. Forget me. Forget what Reed wants for a second. Keep Kevin happy. What is that? KKH? That is the motto of the offseason, because yes, he signed that big extension. That was great. And he is under contract. But we have seen this time and time again that guys get angry and they want out and they become a little non-committal. And by all accounts, Kevin Durant wants to play with Kyrie Irving, and he also doesn't want to play for a team that isn't a championship contender. Am I wrong here? I don't see unless Sean Marks really has something cooked up, which he absolutely can. And this could all be for nothing. And I'm just straining my voice for no reason, but it would really take an interesting turn for the Nets to seriously increase their championship odds by letting Kyrie Irving go or trading him, whatever. Like, I don't see the two steps there. So
yeah, no,
I just ran it. So give it back to me. How is my rant?
So I think you make some great points, and I agree. I think the goal has to be, if Kevin Durant wants Kyrie Irving on the team, Kyrie Irving has to be on the team. But I think the other thing is Kyrie Irving's put himself in a tough spot because, yes, there are going to be other teams that want him. The other teams that are going to be able to afford to sign him right now are not championship contenders. So his leverage, after saying he doesn't want to be anywhere else other than Brooklyn, like he's going to be there as long as KD's there, blah, 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 blah. Like, his leverage is, I'm going to sign with the Pacers, Pistons, Spurs. Like, he doesn't have these options where it's like, oh, I can go and sign with, it's a bad example, but like the Miami Heat and compete for a title next year. Like, Kyrie Irving is kind of hamstrung himself by saying, like, I won't play anywhere else. Like, I didn't want to be traded last year. All this stuff where, like, the Nets have a little bit of leverage because like they can kind of they'd say, hey, we're going to give you a two-year deal with a player option. What are you going to do? Go to Sacramento? Like that is the side of the Sean Marks side I see where it's like, hey, this guy kind of hung us out to dry this past season. Like we got to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a position where like he can do that again and we have no way to because if they sign him to a 5-year deal, which is what he can get, they're kind of like stuck with him. Like I don't know what you can do at that point. It's going to be a massive contract, and if he like decides he's only going to play 40 games, like that's problematic. But at the same time, like if you're the Nets, I mean, if you try and work a sign and trade for him, there's no way what you're getting back is worth Kyrie Irving. So
I think doing a sign and trade with Kyrie probably closed the championship window.
Yeah,
and that's with Durant because you're just not getting.
You're not getting the value. You aren't getting Kyrie Irving back in a sign and trade. I mean, you signed and traded James Harden, and I don't even think they got like. And James Harden's bad, but like until we see what Ben Simmons is on this roster, like I don't even know if they got back what they probably should have gotten for James Harden, and that's crazy to say. But like you trade Kyrie Irving now, like especially to the teams that can afford him, because like there's gonna be teams that want him. You're gonna see this summer the Lakers rumors because it's already come out that LeBron wanted Kyrie before he signed with the Nets, like. The Russell Westbrook, like they're not going to bring in Russell Westbrook.
What about Kyrie for AD? That was one that I thought of today.
That one would be interesting.
That was one that I was like,
that would be interesting. I just wonder if
that one would actually tickle my fancy. But the
Lakers would have to get off Russ first. They would have to get off Russ first, and then I think you could maybe find the avenue for that. But even all that being said, like the teams that genuinely can like afford him, whether it's by signing him outright and working a sign and trade, or like matching the contracts, like you aren't getting someone back who is going to have the impact or the skill set of Kyrie Irving ever. So it's like at that point, it's like you might as well just keep him and bite the bullet and say, yeah, this sucks that like we're kind of at his mercy, but like we're also going to be a title contender. So I don't think you can go anywhere else.
Listen, you sell your soul to the devil. You can't like. There's no takebacks. You know, like you're in it. This is what
you did it already.
Sorry, like you made the move. You signed up for Kyrie. You got to deal with everything that comes with. That's just how this works. And I'm telling you, teams they could say, "Oh, we're gonna take back the culture." Like it's a star-driven league. It just is. And guys will sign up for Kyrie and put up with all of his BS just because that's how this game works. The superstars run the league. So. Does Kyrie owe the Nets a little bit here? Yes, absolutely. He screwed them. This is his mess. Absolutely. Did Durant maybe hitch his wagon to the wrong side? That's to be seen. It does seem like it's trending in that direction, but it's to be seen because here is, in my opinion, the most important reason why I do not think that the Nets are going to let Kyrie Irving walk. One, like we just said, it doesn't make the most sense. They won't get back equal value. When you have Kevin Durant on your team, you are a title contender. Build the most title-ready team around him. That is what Kyrie Irving is. Secondly, I'm currently watching the NBA playoffs, and this is going to be a segue into game of the night, but I'm watching the NBA playoffs. None of these teams are that good. They're just not. The NBA is as open as it has ever been I've seen since like the super era.
For a while.
In a very long time. We are watching. There are 4.
LeBron moving to Miami, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. There are 4 very good basketball teams in the conference finals. I will count the Mavericks in there. The Nets are not that far away from being in this mix. They have Kevin Durant. They have Kyrie Irving. If you want to count Ben Simmons, sure. They have Joe Harris. They have assets now to improve the roster. You don't need if they had a healthy James Harden, sure, but you don't need some juggernaut team anymore. You have Kevin Durant. He's good enough. Build the rest of the roster around him. You're going to pull the plug because your pride's a little hurt. Because you think like, no, that's not how this works because you're never going to get another player like Kyrie Irving. You just aren't. So I'm sorry. You made your bed. You got to go sleep in it for a few more years and you play it out from there. I honestly, again, I just complained and it is riling me up a little bit. I do think Kyrie is on the team again come this year. I've never seen a superstar that wants to stay asked basically not to come back. Unless he's like trade, like this is a very unique situation. It would be a very, very like look at myself in the mirror. Like, am I really going to commit myself to like watching this as like Sean Marks and Joe Tsai tear this team down? Because that's who it would fall on. It wouldn't fall. Kyrie did mess this up, but it's not like it was. This is on Marks and Sai saying we don't want to deal with you anymore. Well, you know what? I want to deal with him.
Yeah.
The guy who the guy who pays for you to make your money off this team. That's who wants to see him. You know what? That's the truth.
They signed up to deal with him a few years ago. So it's like you said, they made their bed. Now they got to lay in it because there's the alternative options may end with blowing the entire thing up, and that's the last thing you want to do when you have Kevin Durant in the prime of his career.
It's too late. We are too far that way. Enough. But anyway, that is my Nets rant. I am overall okay. I think it's a little bit of a off-season rumblings, but I do think that this is only negotiations. I do think there is a common ground, maybe an incentive-based contract to kind of figure this out. I do think Kyrie and Durant, they want to play together. They will play together in Brooklyn. Please. Anyway, while we were talking, Cody, I looked, it was 9-1. It is now at least 9. It's 9-2. Francisco Lindor goes Yahtzee. As called on the show, Cody Wells, job well done, plus 475. This guy, was it against Junis? Yes, it was against Jacob Junis. Big shouts to Cody, friend of the program, always contributing. So thank you, Cody, for that winner. If anyone saw it, tickled their fancy, wanted to jump on, pique their interest. Good stuff by Cody to give us a home run pick. We're now going to transition into the game of the night. Celtics, 2.5-point road favorites. Rare you see in the conference finals. 2.5-point road favorite this late in the series, especially one that's 2-2. Celtics 2.5. Total set at 203.5. It was last time I checked.
Yep.
Still there, 203.5. Obviously, Boston coming off shellacking at the TD Garden on Monday. Peter, I'm going to start with you. I guess, what are your overall, without giving out your best bet, how do you see this series as a whole? Because obviously you have blowouts every which way. Game 3 ended up getting close, but pretty much convincing victories, a lot of runs in this series. How do you stack this up? And also I'll ask you, how much are the injuries taking a toll here? Because I know we each have a bet on this game, but injuries are really, playing a factor in this series. You never know who's going to play. Each game has basically had different starting lineups for the most part. So how do you see the series so far?
Yeah, this has been a weird series, and I feel like Miami has gotten away with 2 really good quarters that have saved it to be at 2-2. And obviously they had those quarters, so they deserve to have won those 2 games. But if you take out the third quarter of game 1 and the first quarter of game 3, Miami's gotten destroyed, man. They can't score in the half court. It's been the key for the Heat has been they've had to force turnovers, get out on the open floor, and get easy baskets. Because in the half court, they look inept on offense. And you talk about the injuries. If Tyler Hero can't play, which ESPN, they were reporting yesterday on NBA Countdown, that he could be dealing with a 2 to 4 week injury, his groin injury. He's going to try and play through it. That's why he's listed as questionable tonight. But not nearly going to be as effective if the injury is that bad. They have nobody who can create their own shot outside of Jimmy Butler and Victor Oladipo. And the key to me in this series, if the Heat wanted to win, was Bam Adebayo was going to have to be the Bam Adebayo of the regular season, who was getting 19 a game, 19 and 10, and controlling the game with his passing, scoring when he needed to, being aggressive basically. And that we saw it in game 3 when Jimmy Butler was out for the entire second half. And then Bam went back into his shell. He took 5 shots in game 4. And the Celtics ran him out of the gym. And I think defensively, Boston is the better team. And the size matchup, it just doesn't favor Miami. They're getting destroyed when it's you get a switch and it's, PJ Tucker starting on Tatum, and then eventually he can switch himself all the way to whoever they want it to be. If Duncan Robinson had to play in the last game, they're getting Oladipo. The Celtics are basically getting what they want, and they're hitting enough threes in these games that they're winning where they're just absolutely destroying them. So, I won't get into my best bet yet, but I feel like Miami is lucky to be 2-2 right now, because you can make the argument, especially after that first half of game 1 when Smart and Horford didn't play and Miami was down at the half. They probably should be down 3-1 right now if Boston could have stayed healthy. Boston hasn't been healthy. So if everybody plays tonight, and I'm interested on your take, like if all these guys are questionable plays tonight, I think Boston has the edge, but it's been frustrating because like you see 2-2 series, you're like, oh, this must have been great. It's been horrible games. It's been 4
Yeah,
blowouts.
it's been
Like we
brutal.
haven't even gotten a good game yet. So that it's been weird, man. Really weird.
Yeah. You said it earlier. I think this game's going to be close. I do. And I think we're going to see like the vibe we thought it was going to be heading into the series. Like we're talking like low 90s, like rock fight style. I think that the physicality is going to take its toll in this one. I think you make a great point about the size difference. Boston is the much bigger team. But like just injuries have really dominated the series. And again, every game has kind of been a different story with who's in, who's out, who are you going to see do anything really. I mean, Jimmy Butler looked like a shell of himself in game 4. If that's the Jimmy Butler we're going to see in game 4, then yeah, the Miami's screwed. I mean, especially with Hero out, you need Jimmy Butler to kind of be like all around doing everything, creating for not only himself, but others, especially with Kyle Lowry's injury. I mean, again, play the hand you were dealt, but it does feel like for the second straight series, Boston's kind of lucked out with injury luck. And I know it sounds like, oh, well, Boston has like Marcus Smart and Robert Williams in and out of the lineup. Yeah, but at the same time, Milwaukee probably wins that series with mid. And I think Miami gets enough if they have a healthy Kyle Lowry, who is clearly not healthy. So, I think that Boston should win this series. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like I don't know. This Miami team is gritty. They're well coached. I think they're the more physical team. And if the refs are going to let them play, they could really, while they're smaller, they play harder than Boston, if that makes sense. And I know these sound like narrative-y, but I don't know. Series is weird. Injuries are kind of defining it. Like, so we got like a really good Tatum game after he had a bad game. What if the same thing happens with Jimmy Butler? Jimmy Butler just goes like off.
Yeah,
because if you're Miami, we'll get to best bets right after this, but for Boston, it's probably they know they're winning game 6. They will not lose that game.
Yeah.
Right? So they're probably trying to get this one tonight to close it out, obviously, close out at home. Or they know, okay, we could win 2 straight. We just did it. So we know we could do that. For Miami's side, you're almost playing like it's almost the other way. Like you're going to lose that Boston game. Does Jimmy give you a full-out effort right now, give you one? What if he even sits game 6? I know it sounds crazy, but if he only has enough in the gas tank to give 2, I could see Jimmy Butler, just like Jason Tatum did in game 4, giving a really, really Herculean effort, pushing Miami to game 5. I'm not saying Miami's going to win the series, but this series does feel destined to go 7 one way or another. And to me, and that's how I will say my best bet, it does seem like Miami is going to win this one. I find this market very interesting. Plus 2.5 towards Miami. It's only happened, I think, less than 20 times in the past decade at least. A home underdog in the conference finals or NBA finals, especially in game 5. Very rare setup here. I'm going to take the points. I don't think there is that much separating these two teams. Maybe there are blowouts here and there, but we have seen Miami. They play well at home. I know they split the first 2, but we do see this Miami team bounce back. It just feels like a zigzag type thing. I'm waiting for the injury report to come out before I lock in my bet. I want to see if Hero's going to play or anything, but it just feels like this market has drifted way too far out in Boston's favor. This market's indicating that like, we know for certain Boston is the better team. They are the far superior team. Not even this Dallas Golden State series where everyone is basically coronated the Golden State Warriors as this dominant team. They were underdogs last night.
Yeah.
If we go back to game 6, I bet you it's a similar market, like a -1 either way. Now you're seeing Boston -2.5. I don't know. It just seems like a really big overreaction. I mean, Jimmy Butler's going to play. We know that for certain. So I just don't really know why Boston's getting this kind of credit. It just seems a little unwarranted. So I'll take the point. Maybe we'll get a close game.
We're on opposite sides of this one because I bet Boston on the money line at -125 2 days ago. I bet like the second this line came out, basically. Yeah, I took it. And You make a good point about like the Heat are the more physical team. I think it's working against them though, because they're not the more physical team on offense. And you look at the last game, the Celtics took 38 free throws. The Celtics shot below 40% from the field, and they blew them out by 20 points because they got to the line 38 times. And Miami's settling for jump shots. They won't get in the lane. Bam Adebayo won't be aggressive, and they're not getting any easy baskets. And when you look at this Heat team and you look at this Celtics team, and defensively, they're both top 5 defenses. They finished 1-4 in defensive rating this year. Boston in this series is outscoring them by 7 points per 100 possessions. They have a 115 offensive rating, 108 defensive rating. The difference is, I think, in this series is when Boston needs to get a basket, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have been able to get them a basket. Jimmy Butler, the first few games of the series, before he got aggravated his knee, was able to do that for Miami in game 1. Then game 2, they get blown out. Game 3, Jimmy Butler gets hurt. Game 4, just didn't have it. So now you come back into game 5 and like, who is Miami going to have score? Like, even if Tyler Hero plays tonight, he hasn't played well in these playoffs. He's shooting 23% from 3. He's been like a shell of the player he was in the regular season, and he's banged up. So now I'm like, okay, who is the guy? Because he was their second leading scorer. He got over 20 a game in the regular season, and Bam got you 19. Those guys in the playoffs are averaging 13 and 14 points a game. So it's like, okay, we went from getting 40 out of those two guys every night to they're not even getting us 30. That's a problem. Because now it's where do the points come from? And Max Strus just had a 0-0-0-0-0 game. PJ Tucker is like, PJ Tucker's offensive ability consists of he'll make a corner 3 when he's wide open. That's it. Otherwise, you don't want him touching the ball. But he has to be on the floor defensively. And like PJ Tucker, I think great player for what his role is, but you could get away with PJ Tucker having his role on that Bucks team last year because you had Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Giannis and Brook Lopez who all could actually go put the ball in the basket. On this Miami team, if Max Strus isn't hitting shots, what is he doing for you? It's the same thing why Duncan Robinson came out of the rotation. And then you like look in game 40. Yeah, Victor Oladipo had 23 points. He's been so up and down these playoffs. They're playing, I've said it like 5 times on the show, and I feel bad for everyone who keeps coming and watching. They're playing roulette on offense. They have no idea where any of their points are coming from. Meanwhile, Boston's coming into every game, and they're like, we know coming into this game, we're getting a minimum of 40 from Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum every single night. Because even on the night that Jason Tatum was horrible and he scores 10 points, Jaylen Brown scores 40. So they're coming into these games. They're like, we know what we're doing. We know what our game plan is. And their role guys have stepped up and knocked down shots, whether it's been Grant Williams, whether it's been Peyton Pritchard. Like Marcus Smart missed the last game and Derek Wright goes crazy. And so like the injuries, I feel like for Boston, Marcus Smart's a great player. They have a Marcus Smart light and Derek White who slides perfectly into the rotation. And then the old Derek White minutes, they're giving more to Peyton Pritchard, who's a better shooter. So they're just getting more offense on the floor. And the issue in Miami is a lot of these teams, I thought Boston was going to struggle with these guys hurt because they were just going to pick on Pritchard or maybe try and pick on Grant Williams at times, depending upon the matchup. Maybe if Aaron Nesmith gets in, you pick on him. The issue is Miami has nobody other than Jimmy Butler that they're even willing to do that. So for Boston, it's kind of just like, all right, we'll live with it. If Jimmy Butler gets switched on Peyton Pritchard, like, sure. But the other 5 times down, who the hell is going to score for you? So I'm all over the Celtics. I wrote an article earlier this week. I think the Celtics are the best team left in the playoffs. And I may be wrong, but I just think defensively they're better than everybody else. And right now, like, I just don't trust this Miami team. They started 0 for 14. Like, this isn't the first like scoring slump they've gone through in these playoffs. Like I'm watching them and I'm like, I don't know if they're going to score 85 points every night. And maybe if we get, like you said, like a rock fight with this total being so low, I think that's the only way Miami stays in the game. I think if Boston scores 100 points, Miami's screwed. They can't score.
Yeah, so, I don't have like a lot of I think I said this to you before the series. Like I don't have a lot of conviction in this series. This is merely like I just think like the home underdog is a little valuable. I just kind of think the line's a little. And you got it like a minus 125, which I agree with in like a coin flip game. Maybe it's like Boston's more likely to win. I just think like, I don't know, over a bucket, like Miami, Jimmy Butler's going to play. And then we've seen this zigzag thing all series. So like, I give the nod to Miami. I think that, I think
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I just think like,
I do agree with you. Boston's probably better. It's just like, there's something weird about this series and, you know, not knowing game to game kind of what's going on. Like, that's why I think this bet's a little weird. If I and I hope for my selfish reasons, because I'm going to be in Florida for when Game 7 would be going down. So
Okay.
maybe I'll tell Cody on another home run prop, and I'll get tickets to the game if there's a Game 7. But no, I think, excellent points on the Boston side. I do think that there is some cause for concern, obviously, with Miami, but we do agree that it would need to be a Jimmy Butler game. Jimmy Butler would need to really drive the boat here and get them done.
He's gonna have to be the guy. It's gonna be this game. And this series, like, it's going to come down to, can like Jimmy Butler carry them? Like, Miami is just like regular season great. Like, you can get through the Sixers, you can get through the Hawks. When like it comes down to winning time, it's like I don't even know who I want on the floor for the Heat. Like, I really don't. Like, it's just a bunch of like guys who you're like, yeah, they're great in their role when they're playing the Orlando Magic on, February 16th. But it's like in the playoffs, like I will take Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown every single time. Boston has beat themselves in the 2 games Miami win. It's such a cliche, but like they turn the ball over a ton in both of those games, and that's why Miami won. And then otherwise Boston has won like every single other quarter in this series. And so for me, it's just like, well, if Boston can like keep their heads on straight and not turn the ball over, I don't think the Heat can score. So that's the way I'm looking at this. I wouldn't be surprised if Boston wins the next 2 games, to be honest with you.
Well, I got news for you. The public agrees with you. They are locking in. The poll has spoken. Celtics -2 is the best bet from the community. I was on the show yesterday, and I can't even remember off the top of my head what we took. I think they took the Mavs. I can't remember if Joanna, our video producer, can remember. They took something on the side. I can't remember which side. But obviously, we will talk about Mavericks Warriors tomorrow with Ben and Donovan on Thursday's Daily Betslip. Pete, great stuff as always. If you like this content, you want to check out this content, make sure you're subscribing right below us. You want to hear more Kyrie Irving rants, I will be here all summer. But seriously, make sure you're liking, subscribing. This stuff does us a big help. And also, make sure you're checking out all our written work over at BetSided. You can see all of our daily dingers. You can see Pete's write-up on the Boston Celtics and why they're the best team left in the NBA postseason. You can see my French Open plays and probably some more complaints about Kyrie Irving. But that is all our time for today. Best of luck with all of your bets, guys. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.